All right, you've got 606 in your live.
Thank you, Carrie. We'll call the Common Council Finance and Human Resource Committee to order at 6:07. Roll call. Councilmember Mark Davies.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Harrington.
Here.
And Councilmember John Rafter.
Here.
Thank you, John. Was there a need for any corrections, additions, or subtractions to our last meeting held April 26th to the minutes? Hearing none, seeing no heads shaking. We'll accept the minutes as provided. Thank you, Jenny. On to our topics. I'd like to go out of order. Sorry, Jenny. Why don't we start off with Councilmember Mark Drenick, so that way you don't have to. And then Ginny, if you would just assist Mark in kind of bringing the rest of the committee members up to date of what line item that you're going to pull the funds out of, how we're going to finance this. And I guess I just want to turn to the committee members and just make sure Mark was able to send a spreadsheet to us a little while ago if he had an opportunity to look at it.
Lynn, just so I can jump in, I just got this about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. Shut my screen down.
Lynn, if you'd like, I can share my screen and go over it.
That help the committee members? Mark, John? Okay, Mark's saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mark, why don't you do that for us then?
All right, sure. Okay, so this is the 14 Saturday street closure in downtown. We're calling it Meet Me on Main Street, the downtown summer Saturdays. The event producer is Oneonta Forward. It's an LLC that's pending. Currently, we are in negotiation. It hasn't gone through their board yet, but it'll either be first night providing a 501c3 umbrella for this, or we actually have two others in line to do that if first night does not. We have expenses that total $30,000 for these 14 weeks. So it's just about a couple of grand per week in total. We have 3 stages for entertainment, one at Elm Street, one in front of Muller Plaza, one by Chestnut Street. The rationale for these 3 stages, and they're small, and the expectation of the entertainments, in fact, that will take place on them being rather small in scope, is that it's enough to move people around Main Street, and the entertainments will go off on an hourly basis. So as a, for instance, at Chestnut Street from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock, at Muller Plaza from 11 o'clock until 12 o'clock, at Elm Street from 12 o'clock until 1 o'clock, and then so forth through the day, with the speaker system augmenting the live performances. We can drop the speakers down at those stage areas where we have live performance, bring them up in other areas, so there'll always be that music ambiance on the street. We have a budget that starts at 6.5, where we presume that the protocols will still be a little bit more inhibiting than might be the case, hopefully, as we push through into August and beyond. And so we are looking at, even though we are looking at 3 unique 1-hour performances per stage, we're looking at a grand total expenditure of $400, which is honestly, it's not very much for the musicians. Typically, what we've found is that we were able to get a musician or musicians for between $100 and $200 per hour last summer, and we suspect that we'll be able to do the same this summer. We do expect that over the course of the summer, those entertainments will be allowed because our protocols will be relaxing to be a little bit maybe more filled out. So instead of having a duo, we might have a trio. Instead of a trio, we might have a quartet. And we're looking at doing that across all three of these stages. You can see that we've an expenditure for sound equipment, amplifier, microphone, etc., that is mostly built around the stage 2 entertainment, which is the Muller Plaza entertainment. Our expectation is that we'll be able to do as we did last year and ask folks to bring their own amplifiers. They'll have a 3-hour ability to set up and break down in between the times that the next people go on. So I think we'll be okay with that. Signage and banner, we're looking at a $600 expense. Tents for performers, we are looking at the stages being constructed in the long run, but in the short run, we are putting 3 10-foot by 15-foot pop-ups that are, one is red, one's blue, and one's purple. So they continue the look of all of the other umbrellas and so forth and so on that are on the street, making for a pretty cohesive sort of a presentation. That's at $1,250 for the 3 of them. Only on a Job Corps is inclined to actually construct the long-term stages for us, which are 8-foot by 12-foot in 3 sections each. So the sections are 4-foot by 8-foot, basically your standard width and length of a plywood sheet, and they will be on casters and locking casters, and they'll be locking into one another as well. We should be able to wheel them in, wheel them out, wheel them out of the way in the event that we need to pretty easily, pretty quickly. The expectation though is that we probably won't have those until we are probably halfway into the summer. Job Corps is operating short-staffed and short, and they have quite a fewer students, quite a number of fewer students than they typically would. But Chris Kuhn is all about trying to make this happen. Tables, clips, tape, etc. We're looking at a $200 line item there. We're hoping that the city might be able to provide us with about 80 chairs currently stored at the Armory, and we would take delivery of those and put them in Artware's space. Jacqueline and Adrian are giving us the permission to use that space to some small effect as we need it for the period of time that they aren't in construction. Food and water for volunteers is basically a $25 a week expenditure. As we know, as we get into the summertime, it actually can, the sun can be brutal if you've got a good hot summer day, and we want to keep everybody hydrated and fed. We'll have volunteers. We'll also have Department of Labor will be providing, as they did last year, a workforce engagement through their youth opportunities. Various promotion of this. We're frankly going to try to do this on a bit of a shoestring. We'll be doing print and social media promotion in the beginning of this at $500. And then after that, try to settle into about $250 per, with the expectation that the people that and organizations and businesses that we're looking at as sponsors through the middle part of this will wind up picking up a piece of promotion themselves. We also have donated promotion from Ben Gunther, which is difficult to put a price tag on, but we'll be doing TV spots for each of these events starting the Wednesday before each event, and we'll also be cross-promoting the new location of the farmer's market. We have a contingency of about $800. So that's our $30,000 budget. What we have in terms of our funding at this point, we're a little hamstrung because we don't quite yet have the 501c3 piece locked in. We should have that by the 18th, if not sooner. And the LLC will be what people will make their checks out to. But even that is a couple, 3 weeks from being in place. It'll be close, but we will gather checks and hold them until such time as we're able to actually open a bank account and cash them. Destination Oneonta is coming on board for $5,600, and they'll take a center stage, the Muller Plaza stage, in terms of sponsorship of that stage for those monies, and they'll also help provide some of the entertainment for that stage as well. We're looking at sponsor opportunities that will start, realistically speaking, after the first week has come and gone. Excuse me, and we'll continue those for 12 weeks. We have the first of those sponsorships is locked down now, which is First Night. They'll do $2,500. We're giving people an option. Either way we win. The option is $2,500 will buy you essentially the sponsorship of the event for that week. They can brand it. They can use it to the effect of education and even, providing, incentives and, really it's their event. We will, and for this to be, this is a transition year in our view. This is the year where all the stakeholders take ownership and we get the sponsoring agencies more or less in place. These are not-for-profits and businesses that can afford this. So we're looking at $2,500 if we are asked to provide the entertainment. If the sponsoring agency that particular week is going to provide the entertainment, then we'll take $1,000 and be happy to have that. Either way, they are, if we don't have to provide the entertainment, we're essentially saving ourselves $1,500. If we do, that's where that extra money comes from. And so we're looking at a minimum for each week of about $1,000 and potentially more than that. Al Rubin, at the bottom of this chart, you can see Al Rubin has donated the money for the tents. And we're hoping that with this, I'm able to solicit the city to the tune of $450 per event for these 14 events to take sponsorship of the Elm Street stage. If the city's inclined to do that, aside from the fact that it's a great thing, I'm able to say that the city is a sponsor of this. It's also
Mark, we can't be a sponsor of anything. We can't do that. That's illegal. We cannot make contributions to any entity, including the Boy Scouts. So we can't sponsor anything.
All right.
We can make grants to entities to do things, but we cannot sponsor things. Just can't do it.
Appreciate that, Dave. In that case, what I'm asking for is not a sponsorship, but rather a grant of $450 per week for those 14 weeks. And Dave, I would presume that it's still all right for us to include the city's the city as a thank you, essentially, on banners and so forth and so on.
You have to understand that what we have to do when we have an event, when you have an event, and again, we have to really, really talk specifically about, you keep saying we are going to do this and we are going to do this. We need to know who we are.
So that's
we have to have a tax number. We have to have 501c3 status, because the city can't simply give money to worthy organizations to do stuff. They have to have a contract with them, and in exchange for money, they will do something. So we enter into a contract that say who's going to do it, how it's going to be done, what are we going to get for our money. Right, then we can enter into a contract.
Right, a service contract.
Exactly.
Mark, if I could just jump in here for a minute before we go further. My big concern is that we have a first event starting in 3.5 weeks from now. We have no organization that is stepping up to take responsibility for this event fiscally, operationally, liability-wise. Now, I know that it says First Night Oneonta. It's extraordinarily unlikely First Night Oneonta is going to take responsibility on that level for 14 events.
No,
and the other organization mentioned is Oneonta Forward LLC, which doesn't exist yet. I don't see how we can approve anything going forward, particularly granting money to when we don't know who's responsible for these events. We don't know who's going to be fiscally responsible. I'm going to suggest that we have to have at least 3-4 weeks notice before an event of who's responsible for it before we approve it. So I'm going to suggest that June, whatever the first event date is, June 4th or 2nd, whatever it may be, first Saturday in June, that's not feasible, that we need to identify who is going to be responsible for these events at 3-4 weeks before the first event is scheduled. I mean, we just can't do something on this scale and nobody is stepping up to be responsible for it. And then the other thing is considering it's still not fully funded. So what's the likelihood of an organization saying, oh, I'll be responsible for this event, understanding that if we don't come up with more money, that organization will be liable. So I just think we need to step back here and say, first step is who's going to be doing this and not schedule an event before we know who's doing it.
Right, and I think another consideration to take into is the insurance. I was going over this before, and I Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, I just don't see where the insurance is listed and who's picking that tab up.
Yep. All right.
Mark, I love the idea. I love these events. I think they're well worth all of the energy is going into this, and they're very, very meaningful. But we have to be responsible in not approving something that nobody's willing to take responsibility for.
All right. So then this committee meets every 2. That's correct. Every 2 weeks?
Yes, we meet every 2 weeks. Mark.
If you can,
Mark, if you could just take us off shared screen so that we can see everybody.
I'm sorry. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm sorry about that. If you would find me a home on the agenda in 2 weeks, and I'll see what I can do about answering as many of those questions as I can. And we will, if we're talking about today's the 10th, if we're talking about the 24th, and you're looking to have 3 weeks minimum, we have a Common Council meeting on the 1st of June. If I'm able to satisfy this committee on the 24th, then I would, if this committee is satisfied, then I would hope that we'd be able to take it to council for June 1st. And then we would be looking at starting a little later than the June 5th, potentially June the 12th.
And so ultimately, Mark, I just want to understand, you're looking for the city funds of approximately $6,300, but now it'll be less because we're going to miss a couple.
Yes, that's right. You can that's right. You can knock that back by 1/14. Certainly. I appreciate your time today. I'll look forward to reconnecting with you guys in 2 weeks. Okay. And hopefully I'll be able to answer all the questions that you've raised here.
Okay.
So it's really only one question for me, Mark. Who's taking responsibility for the event? As long as we have that, everything else can fall into place.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very good. All right. So thank you for your time, folks. And I will look forward to reconnecting with you guys in 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Sure.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Ginny, I'd like to, I guess we'll go back to topic A for the West Street reconstruction bid award. Greg, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Why don't you take us through that?
Sure. So we budgeted $2,360,000 for the West Street reconstruction project. That's including construction and engineering. We signed a contract with Delaware Engineering for $112,000. There might be a amendment to that to do some additional construction inspection for the first month of the projects if we decide to go forward with it. So that might be increased a little bit. So our construction budget was around 2.25. Engineers' estimate of probable costs was around just under 2.2 million. And we opened bids last week. We received only one bid. However, fortunately, it was a good bid. It was just under 1.9 million. It's $1,898,995. And it's RB Robinson is the contractor who submitted the bid. You'll recognize that name from the Main Street project we did a couple of years ago, the Fair Street neighborhood project, the Pine Street, and Wilbur Park project did last year. So they're familiar name and familiar faces. We know that they've done some good work for us. We reviewed their bid, we being myself, the purchasing agent, as well as Delaware Engineering, and we're comfortable recommending an award to them for this project. At the next council meeting. The project will have a 150-day duration, which say we were to start June 1st, they would finish by the end of October. So it's a tight window. We have to complete it in that window in order to be sure that we're complete with everything before the weather turns. But I think it's doable, and so we'd like to recommend that we go forward.
Greg, did you say a 45-day window on that?
150-day contract is what the contract will be from the notice to proceed. So if we were to award at the council meeting next week, we would probably have a notice to proceed within a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Okay. And given the environment with construction materials, are we seeing any expected delays for piping? Because we're doing infrastructure, correct?
That's right. That's right. This project, just to recap quickly, be not only reconstructing the pavement, replacing sidewalks, curbs, water main, sewer main, storm lines. So yeah, that's a possibility. That's something that we'll find out when we get to that point, when they're ordering, if things are being delayed. I mean, there is some delays now. Now, I can't say for certain by the time they're ordering things what the market's going to be like. We've seen some cost increases. Costs continue to go up.
Okay. And then with the breakdown, you said the bid was 1.98 and we had budget, I'm showing we had budget 2.36.
Yeah, and that 2.36 included the engineering, which again was 112 plus probably a little bit more. So I think our budget is pretty good as far as having some contingency in there for unanticipated issues that might come up during construction.
Right, because I think in our experience here, our contingency has been activated. I'm just looking at the numbers, just making sure that we have enough room there. That's all. Just again, because of the environment of construction materials, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this particular bid, given that environment, they can't come back to us, correct? It is what it is?
Yeah, they put their bid prices in.
Okay, good. From committee members, any further questions? We'll move this up to full council.
And if you don't mind, can I just jump in to remind the committee that a bond resolution will be needed for this capital project also.
Ginny, are you going to try and keep that around the 860,000 mark, or?
Greg and I've got to look at the total budget estimate, and we'll put it together. In the 5-year capital plan, it was noted that all of it would be bonded. So we'll take a look and see.
Okay. And obviously you'll have that ready for the next council, full explanation of the bond, for the full council to understand.
I hope so. Yeah, I need to, once Greg and I get all the numbers together and the description of the project, I have to send it off to bond council, ask them for the resolution, they'll send it back. And they usually make it by the due date. So we'll be giving that to him sometime this week.
Okay. Greg, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. Was there anything further that you wanted to talk about on the West Street construction?
No, that was it.
Okay. I just know that that's one of the projects I hear the most from residents, not only in the Fifth Ward, but wherever else. If they work anywhere up and down West Street, wow, my ear gets bit off on that one. So thank you for getting this moved forward.
Sure.
The Catella Well transmission line.
That one.
We have lots of cheery news for us to hear.
Oh yeah, definitely. Bid opening for that one is this week, May 12th. So we don't have a bid price yet, but we will have that this week. We anticipate hopefully several bids coming in and trying to bring that to next week's council meeting for award as well. Our engineer's estimate for that project is $400,000 for construction. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can beat that. Our goal would be to complete that within 90 days, ideally by the end of August. And right now we've submitted a permit application to New York State DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers for permitting to be able to do work in the creek. That's still pending. So okay. We're hoping that we can have that squared away in time for the contractor to start, and hopefully they coincide.
So Greg, as a committee, can we expect that you'll have everything completed as a package before us for the 24th?
For the 18th?
Or 18th? 18th, sorry, 18th, sorry.
Yeah.
No. Oh, not the council. Oh, you're going to try and get this to the council?
Yeah, we'd like to get it to council. Again, like as you pointed out with West Street, lead times and material pricing continues to increase. So the sooner we can get it awarded, the better, as long as we have a responsible, acceptable bid.
Okay. Committee members, do you guys feel comfortable moving this up to full council, even though you don't know what the bids are? They're going to be released tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. John?
That's fine with me.
And Scott?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. We'll move that item up to full council. Thank you, Greg. Greg, why don't you, I guess you're going to talk with Jenny about, why don't you start off with H, the 2021 street project budget?
Yeah, this is to establish a budget for 2021 street projects. And by street projects, these are projects that fund pavement, stormwater, curb and sidewalk improvements, depending on the street that we're talking about. As of right now, and these are beyond maintenance issues, not like the chip sealing or the fiber mat that we discussed, I think, at the last meeting. These are more like your milling and paving of pavement or replacing curbs, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Right now, the streets that we're looking at include Belmont Circle South, Curtis Lauren Drive, Fairview Street, Reynolds Street on the east end, Frederick Street, South Main Street, and Gardner Place. Possibly some others, possibly less than that, depending on timing of everything. Some of these projects are dependent on DPW schedule as well as contractor schedule. They're a mixture of labor.
Okay, so it's not totally outsourced?
What's that?
It's not totally outsourced?
Correct.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, we'll move that up to full council.
Len, let's back up for a second. I just trying to formulate. So Greg, what are you asking for any money for this or release of funds, or is this just kind of notifying us to go to the council and notify what you really want to do up there? Or?
Yeah, that's I guess that's where Ginny jumps in. But what we need to do is finalize the amount we're asking for. I've got waiting on a couple of things, estimates. So I expect we'll have a final number by council, but we're talking in the range of $450,000, I believe. Is that what we're talking about, Ginny?
Yes. And as I go through my narrative with you, Scott, it will answer your question. We have some current capital projects that we want to close out that has excess funding for street projects. We also got an update today on our CHIPS availability funding, which I can go in detail with you either now or as we go through my narrative. But by closing out some of those capital projects and with the CHIPS funding, Greg and I want to bring a number to council to develop a capital project for the 2021 street projects. We have approximately about 177,000 of excess funds in the capital projects right now, 150 to 177. We also have, to date, we've got about 642,000 available in CHIPS funding, and we want to take a section of that for the 2021 street projects and reserve the balance for possibly West Street, possibly other street projects in the future. So we don't want to allocate all of it at this time until Greg and I figure things out. But we just need a little bit more time to discuss it because we just got the information today. But what we do need to do is to establish our 2021 street capital project budget so Greg and his crew can get started on those streets.
Then what about the projects, Greg, that we put on hold last year during the pandemic when we didn't do a lot of projects? We put everything on hold to keep the money in case we needed it, and we just didn't do them. Is that going to be addressed here, or?
Yeah, that's some of these projects are in there. That money that we didn't spend last year is what Jean's talking about. It's being rolled over from those capital projects. So we're just picking up where we left off.
Okay, so this isn't part of the I'm losing my marbles here. Part of the capital plan or whatever we're working off of there before we suspended it for the year.
Oh yeah. This is all on the capital plan.
No, I mean, this isn't like part of this year. This is actually, we're going back last year, pick up what we put on hold, and then trying to get some of the stuff done this year. That's on for this year.
Yeah.
So we're grabbing 2020 and
lost some time last year, and we're picking up where we left off. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Mark.
Greg, you mentioned 400 something. I'm sorry, I missed putting that number down, but in Ginny's narrative, it says 305, so 177 approximately for the kind of the closed capital projects as well as the 127 for the CHIPS funding. Am I missing another funding source? Had we already allocated another 100 something for these street projects, or where are we getting that?
That would be coming from CHIPS, Mark. That's an update from my 305 figure because we got the available CHIPS money notification today. Greg and I were briefly talking, and that's how we came up with the 450 because because we have the CHIPS funds available, he was able to add a few more streets on.
Gotcha. Thank you, Jenny. You said that the numbers weren't jiving in terms of understanding that. Thank you very much for that explanation.
Any other questions? Scott? Good?
Yeah, my brain's kicking in again.
Brain or marbles? Which one is it?
I don't know. Something's rattling up there.
Okay, good. That's a good question. You guys want to attack the YMCA contract?
Okay, Greg, I'll start if you like. Okay, the 2021 YMCA proposal was supplied to everyone, and you will see in the proposal that the operations start on July 1st and they go through August 22nd. And the hours are from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. for open swim, with every 45 minutes having alternate groups, giving also time for cleaning. And then 4 to 6:45 p.m. is family swim with 1.25 hour time periods. And you'll also see in the contract, it details different scheduling. For example, it has cleaning, lessons, training, the different swim schedules and things like that. The proposed cost is a little over $71,000, and it is covered in the 2021 budget. The 2021 budget had a little over $72,000. They have not finished the afternoon program contract yet because they are waiting for the capacity and safety guidelines from New York State. But we thought because the swim contract is ready, and Greg can jump in as far as DPW and COVID standards and things like that, but we thought we could get this to council and get it underway so we have it ready for the July 1st operations.
Okay. Couple questions. The YMCA contract, what's the line item that's in?
It's in pools, 7180.
And then the second question is, does this contract recognize the potential revenue stream that was listed in the two sub documents that we were provided?
Those revenue streams are for YMCA, yes, and they do recognize it. So what they do is they take into consideration the revenue streams that they'll be getting from the other out-of-town residents and things like that, and then that goes all towards their cost of running the pool program.
Okay. So we would pick up implementing that?
No, the YMCA handles all that.
They're handling all of
that. Yeah, as Dave Merzick said earlier in the meeting, we hire them, we contract with them, and this is our donation towards that program.
Bless you, Mark. I didn't hear you sneeze, but any other questions about the YMCA contract? Go ahead, Mark.
Fighting back another sneeze. So let's see if I can ask this without doing that. Just one in the, I guess the contract proposal, they mentioned that they'd recommend that the city purchases the digital thermometers. Is that anything that we have, or is that going to be part of what we're going to purchase for them? So just trying to understand that particular. I mean, it's small. It's a small part. Just wondered what we had there.
I believe that we have them. Greg, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, we already have that ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm always looking for efficiencies. So is this the way we do it? Is this the most efficient way that we've come with, or is there another way we could do this? I mean, it's an essential service, but I'm always kind of looking.
How we used to do it, Len, is that basically someone in Lou Lansing's position ran the pool programs. We would hire lifeguards. We would have, I can't tell you how many on staff. I want to say it, maybe 24 of them, if not more. We would do the scheduling. We would also do the afternoon program, and all of those things would fall under our supervision, our payroll expenses, and it got extremely costly. So years ago, under Dick Miller's mayorship, we were looking for ways to save money, and so we ended up contracting with Y, because it also took, Greg, and confirm this for me, please. I believe it also took burden off of the DPW staff as far as being on site for the pools. Is that correct, Greg?
I not so much actually.
No? Okay.
I think DPW still was doing just about the same as before. Okay. It really was the administration when the city, scaled back the recreation department to one part-time individual as opposed to 2 full-times. That was the big difference, where we obviously couldn't do that on the program now.
And also administering all those part-time through the payroll system was a tremendous amount of work.
Understand. Thank you for that back history. It's good. Okay, we'll move that up to full council. Greg, I think that's the end for you. So Jenny, why don't we start with your narrative, and that should take us to the airport, right? The beginning of your narrative.
Yeah, the airport. Oh, I'm sorry. This says airport payment management grant. I should say pavement. I'm sorry for the typo. The city received a grant offer in August of 2020 to conduct a pavement management program.
Right.
And on August 21st, like 3 days later, we got the grant paperwork created by the FAA, and it was executed on August 24th. So it was a very fast turnaround. And in preparing for different things that we do in the finance office, I went back and looked for approval motions. Could not find any in the minutes. So we just need to retroactively authorize for the execution of this contract. So Dave Merzig and I edited the motion that I presented to you, and we would just like to present that to council. So that way we've got all the legal resolutions on the books. And also, just so you know, McFarland Johnson and the FAA also need a copy of this resolution.
Correct. Any questions from committee members? Hearing none, seeing none.
And also,
Okay.
just as an update, this original grant had a local portion required, but we no longer do because the FAA is now going to cover it 100%.
That's correct. Okay, moving on to the OPT vehicle. I guess I'm sure no one in the committee is going to object, but the only question I had on this was the fund for OPT. Are they able to pay their legacy, their annual maintenance costs from that same fund, or is that?
Yeah, so all OPT vehicles, all federally and state funded vehicles for OPT, all the maintenance costs get charged to that department.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And as you know, most of OPT is supported by STOA.
Yeah, fully funded. I just wanted the rest of the committee to know what's going on. Is there any objection to moving that item up to full council? Seeing none, we'll move that up. Ginny, I think we move on to the closed capital projects.
Yes, I don't know if everybody was able to see my updated sheet that I emailed out this morning, but over the weekend I was working on more capital projects and added a few more to the summary page. But the governing body of any municipality has the authority to approve capital projects. That same voting board or level of government also is the one who authorizes the closing of those capital projects. So what I have to do is when a capital project gets completed, I have to supply the council members with the net effect of how things turned out, the expenditures versus the funding requirements and the difference. By law, we either have to return it to the fund that provided the funds, or if it was from bond proceeds, we have to reserve those bond proceeds for future debt payments, or we can reassign it to other capital projects. So the spreadsheet that I sent you is the request that I would like to do for the various capital projects there that I have listed. I don't know if you want me to go in detail on all of them, but included in this spreadsheet are the funds that we would like to transfer to the 2021 street projects that we were talking with Greg about earlier. And I've also showed you the effective date of when I would like to record these on the city's financial statements. That's important because I have to have those effective dates in the motion. And then that way it gives me the proper authority to do the accounting that I need to do for our financial statements.
Ginny, I just want to make sure I'm looking at the most updated one. How would you distinguish between?
I would have in column R, Len, it's got the effective date where it says 2021 versus 2020.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is everybody else able to follow along?
Yeah, I can always call her with questions on it.
Yeah, basically what this is, it's just projects that have come to a close. All the work has been completed, all of the expenses have been recorded, all of the funding sources have been accounted for. And what this does is if there's excess funding, then as I said, we need to either return it from its source or reassign it. And I'll repeat again, the bond proceeds, if we have excess bond proceeds, they get reserved for future bond payments. So the $68,000 that you see in column Q, where I say transfer to debt service, those funds will actually help the water fund in this year's budget because I'll be able to put those funds right into the water fund. that those will get applied to future debt payments. Also, the one thing that I did want to explain to everyone, you'll see on the last one for the Market Street property purchase, I need to request a little over $5,900 from the general fund. That's for the additional closing costs for the purchase of the Market Street property.
Okay. And that is because of because what
It's
you
just
wrote down here, closing costs.
Yeah. There were filing fees to our portion of the taxes to the seller, abstract fees, things like that.
Okay. Any questions for Jenny? Scott said he'll grab his marbles later.
Well, I'm trying to look at it on a laptop, and I just can't get it to blow up enough to ask
so
questions.
Scott, what I do is I download those and save them as a PDF and bring them back up, because I'm the same way. I can't see it well enough. So by saving it, then I can make it as large as I want it to.
I get spoiled at work. I have two screens, and I can get one over on the screen while I'm still doing.
Right.
So I can read.
Well, Scott, you have a really techie wife that's very good at this. So
leave her nameless.
That's her new name, Techie Wife.
Techie wife.
I'm so on the couch tonight.
Oh. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the budget transfers. Following down your narrative, Jenny.
okay, the budget transfers just for two for tonight. OPT. This will be a budget amendment, because what I would like to do is increase their expenditure code and then increase what we're going to be claiming on the CARES funding act. They have purchased 2 onboard control units for the GenFair farebox equipment. According to what David has explained to me, the current ones are considered obsolete and parts are no longer available. So what he would like to do is seize the opportunity to be able to upgrade the remaining fare boxes that we have and purchase 12 more of these. So it would be a cost of $15,000.
Again, that's not local tax dollars, correct?
Correct. That's going to be funded through the CARES funding.
Any objections? Hearing and seeing none. The wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, this is just shuffling the money around. The wastewater treatment plant in the 2021 adopted budget, we had $275,000 adopted for the secondary digester between equipment and the cleaning. And the actual award that has come in, the equipment was higher and the cleaning was lower. So I just need to move some funds from the purchase services over to the equipment code.
So Jenny, the only question I had on that one was this did not make our list to hold until July 1st.
Correct. Because it was considered a critical thing that needed to get done.
Okay. I just want everybody in the group to know.
And also it was in coordination with the upgrade that's going on down there. So holding this up would have held other parts of the work being done.
Right. The only thing that did make the list was there's a secondary pump. I think it was $25,000, somewhere in there.
It may have, and Len, I just wanted to, I wanted to point out to the council, in the back of the budget book, all the equipment that got approved before July 1st is listed.
Right, the last page or second to last page in our budget for the
starts
wastewater.
on page 86 and goes through 86 and 87 is the equipment schedule that got approved effective January 1st. Then there's another to be reconsidered on July 1st, which is in the back of the budget.
Right. Okay. I believe we'll move those items up to full council on the budget transfers. Why don't you finish? And Greg wants to join in. No, that was covered. Greg covered
Greg covered it, but I don't think he mentioned that the insurance has gotten denied.
Correct.
So this will not be covered by NYMA for the repairs. It's going to be, we're estimating, as Greg said earlier, around $400,000. We will need to look at how we're going to fund this repair, but I'm not prepared to provide that for this evening.
Okay.
Ginny, what was the reason that it was denied?
They said that if the pipe had broken on the land for Catella Well, or the pipe had broken on the land for the water plant, then it would be covered. But it does not cover pipe that connects one building to another. So it's, for example, they do not cover when we have a water main break on a street because it's going from one location to another. But say, for example, if our water pipes break here at City Hall, they'll fix them because it's connected to our building. But once it goes down the street, they won't fix them or won't cover them, I should say. That was the reason I was given.
Always in the small print.
And just so you know, our insurance agents argued with them for 2 days. I shouldn't say argued, really went to bat for us. Had the adjusters review our policies. They reviewed our coverage again, and they were in hours-long meetings with them trying to convince them to cover it for us, but they just couldn't find an avenue to do it.
Well, I'm glad they reviewed our case well. Okay. Katie's gonna request us to go into executive session. Katie, did you want to do that now, or do you want to talk about the 207A?
Well, I guess I can just give you a very brief overview. So we have, it's a 207A, which is, expanded workers' compensation benefits for a firefighter who received an in the line of duty injury. It was back in January. And after a thorough legal and medical review, I'm recommending that the application is approved. And of course, because we're dealing with medical information, any other questions would have to be answered in executive session.
Is there any other subject matter that needs to be discussed in executive session?
Yes, Greg and I have an employee disciplinary matter and a couple other confidential personnel matters to be discussed.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session.
Len, could I, before we go into executive session, could I just add one quick thing to the agenda?
Oh, okay, Mary, go ahead.
Which came in late. Last week I had mentioned that the Downtown Improvement Fund, $2.2 million that we gave out to property owners and businesses was been fully allocated, and everybody's going forward. About 40 projects are going forward. The project that is the largest project and the one that is probably the most impactful is the renovation of the Ford Block building, which if you're not familiar with it, that's the building that starts with our walkway that goes to the parking garage and goes all the way through to the plaza where KeyBank ends. And that project has been proposed by Springbrook. They proposed to purchase that building and to completely renovate it. Interior would be conversion of second and third floors to high quality market rate housing. And outside, they'd replace all the windows, make it more energy efficient, keeping all with the historical nature of the building. So we're very excited that despite COVID, the Springbrook has done everything they could this year to be able to keep this project going forward, and they are planning on going forward with this project. I have asked Springbrook if they would make a presentation to council. I'd like to tentatively schedule that for the next week's council meeting at the beginning of the meeting, where they can talk about exactly what is involved with their project, details, show blueprints, maybe have some renderings to show of what they hope to accomplish. In addition to that, I want to invite, again, this is tentative, they'll confirm tomorrow that they'll be ready for this. The following Wednesday morning, I don't have an exact time, maybe around 9 o'clock, I'd like to arrange an informal tour of the second and third floors of that building for all council members who are able and interested in doing so. So you can get a firsthand view, if you've never been up there, of the type of space and potential that this project can bring. So next week, hope tentatively, we will have a presentation on the council meeting, followed by a tour. So mark your calendar if you're available Wednesday morning and would like to tour the upper floors. One of the things that we are going to have to partner with Springbrook on in this project will be the walkway that goes from Main Street to the parking garage. We currently do not pay rent on that walkway. It is Springbrook's intention for not to charge us rent going forward and allow us to continue to use that as a walkway to the parking garage. However, that will also serve as the entrance and lobby to the upper floor apartments. And I think that this will probably be a win-win for both parties. Their plan, and they'll show some drawings of it hopefully next week, will be to renovate that walkway to make it more consistent with the lobby of a high-end apartment building. An elevator is designed to serve both the two levels of the parking garage, as well as the upper floors of the Springbrook residence. Tenants will be able to use that elevator to access their residence. They will have a key card so that only they can access the tenant floors, while the general public will be able to use the elevator to access the different levels of the parking garage. The walkway will be reduced in size because Springbrook plans to put an office in there and it'll be used as a lobby as well, which will be beneficial for the city, I think, because instead of having so much space where it becomes more of a hangout, it'll now be more of a high quality pass through that'll be less attractive and seem more inappropriate for people to use as a hangout. So I think it'll be a plus. It'll be monitored by security of Springbrook for the apartment building there. So I think that this is a creative win-win approach, and we will have to work with Springbrook both on the renovation of that space and the elevator in partnership, both operationally and financially. So more to come on that, but I think that this is a great opportunity for us. So more details on it Wednesday, hopefully Tuesday council meeting, and a tour on Wednesday morning.
Well, thank you, Gary, for bringing that item to our meeting tonight and adding it onto the agenda. Very exciting news. And I look forward to their presentation next Tuesday and going through the building the following day. So thank you for moving this forward.
Thank you.
Okay. With that said, we'll go into executive session to discuss personnel information. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
So moved by Councilmember Harrington, and a third by Councilmember Davies. Carrie, if you would, Mayor, are you joining us also? Did we all make it back? I think we're all here. So Mark, forgive me for saying this, but Jenny, while we were gone, did you come up with any other additions to our agenda? Okay.
No, I did not.
Thank you. Thank you. If not, that concludes our meeting. On a side note, before we all leave, and seeing Mark, I was joking, but are there more volunteers needed for this coming Saturday and Sunday, Mark, for the race?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
There are quite a few different folks needed. There are, I think we're pretty good with the setup and breakdown, but there's certainly folks needed during the race themselves to make sure that any spectators recognize that the racers are out in the course, to kind of be present at some of the areas where we might have some troubles. If kids crash, we need to notify people. Mike Maben has been handling the volunteers and setting that up. If you're interested, shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to give you Mike's email and phone number to be able to text him, but certainly looking for volunteers. Setup is Friday, pretty much all day. Breakdown is Sunday. And the races, the middle schoolers are Saturday and the high schoolers Sunday. I think that's the order.
And Gary, isn't this the race that you attended 2 years ago and were really amazed about the activity of it?
Yeah, it's the same race, and they were so happy with the course and the reception they had here in the city that they said they wanted to come back the next year. Unfortunately, last year they could not come back because of COVID. They've come back this year. They have a very extensive and well put together COVID plan for being for holding the race safely and being in compliance with all state regulations, all CDC recommendations. So, unfortunately, I don't think they'll be encouraging a large turnout of spectators because of COVID, but it's great to have them here and having the races go on.
Okay. All right, everybody. Enjoy your night. And
Len, can I jump in for 1 sec?
Sure, Chief, go ahead.
Mark, if you would, if you have a map of the course, we usually get that every year, and I don't know if it's changed, but I haven't seen one for this year.
Mike, I sent it to you today. I sent you, to check your email. I sent you their entire safety plan, their COVID plan, and the map of the course today.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. I didn't catch that.
If you don't have it, let me know. I'll send you the whole package that they sent me.
Well, it's very exciting having all these young people coming into our area and doing this. It's great. So I'm just double checking my schedule, Mark. I want to participate. I think it was going to be more Saturday than Sunday. So
there's always need.
As long as I don't have to ride, we'll be okay. All right.
I think the mayor's going to go out and lead the race.
Oh, you are, Gary. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.